One. Ladies and gentlemen, what's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Adam's here, Blacktop Smack Talk. We're back. We're back, man. Good to see you guys. The crew is back. We got a nice little special annual pod that we do every year that we're going to knock out for you guys. It's our All-Star Reserve Selection Show. You know, the gentlemen and myself are back, and we are, we put a lot of time and effort into this. We talk about All-Stars and we talk about the league so much, and All-Stars is such a big thing, despite the fact that I think all four of us agree there probably shouldn't be an All-Star game, an actual game in Atlanta, but that's a conversation for another day. Adam here again. We got Charlie in the house. We got Bruce Jackson in the house. And we got the man, the myth, the legend, Millionaire Sano in the house. Fellas, how you guys doing?
I mean, I feel good that I'm in company of a millionaire. That's not every day that's not an everyday thing in Lake City.
Right?
I wish it was true.
Oh, okay.
Man. So All-Star starters got announced last Thursday. So we'll just get going. And All-Star starters were announced last Thursday. We got in the East at the guards, it was Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Giannis, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid. Now, before we get to our own picks for reserves, did you guys have, and I'll start off with Bruce, did you guys have any problems? I know, Bruce, that's why I wanted to come to you first. Did you have problems with any of the starters? Did you feel as though a reserve should have been named ahead of some of the starters?
I mean, ultimately, it's fine because the only debate I would have would be Kyrie starting, and that's just only based off of I guess DMPs. Yeah, I don't want to say injury, whatever that issue was going on. I guess with just trying to get his mind right, everything else right during that time period. So my only beef would be flipping him and James Harden, but I think they're both obviously all-stars. So I guess there's no ill will whether one or the other is starting, but if we're going to be, clear cut, I think I just would have swapped them. That's it.
Bruce, let me ask you something real quick. Before everything was announced, would Kyrie be an all-star for you? Like, if you had to pick your all-star roster, would he be an all-star?
Yeah, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because some of our fellow media guys did not have Kyrie as an all-star. So I was just kind of interested to hear, if you guys thought that he actually deserved to be an all-star, or because of some, he missed some games with injury, and then he took some personal time, he missed some games for that. So I was just interested to see if you guys thought he should have been an all-star in general.
I think Bruce said, I think the only argument against all-star in general would be the like you said, the DNPs, right? Whether it's injury or whatever he had going on mental health wise, right. I think that would be the only argument, because the numbers say otherwise. I mean, Brooklyn, say what you want about their record, whether they're disappointing or not so far, but I mean, they're up there and they're going to be a contender. So right. I think that would be the only argument. I would put him in, same thing. Yeah. He'd be an all-star to me.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking, how many what's more, the amount of missed games from Kyrie or the amount of games that Harden played in the other conference?
That's a good point.
But he's an all-star. You mean, that's not his. I mean, I guess it is kind of his fault he got traded. But it's just because you move conferences doesn't mean you shouldn't be an all-star if you're good enough. But I was just thinking, when Bruce brought that up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, yeah, he has had a lot of missed games. I was like, but then Harden had a lot of games in a whole nother league. So
he still played those games, and they were still all-star worthy, right?
Right.
Except for the last couple where he kind of dogged it a little bit. He kind of just tanked it.
And that's where and that's where like Charlie brought a good point, and that's where my argument is, like, and like San alluded to, he still played. He put up all-star worthy numbers, and yes, he might have pouted a little bit the last 3 games of his stint in the Rockets, but his numbers to me, plus just more games, validate for me him being just over Kyrie as a starter. But I mean, it's apples and oranges. They're both should be in there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so breaking out with our East reserves, we'll start with Sando. So how it's gonna go on Tuesday? The coaches turn in their ballots by tomorrow. It's two backcourt players, 3 front court players, and then 2 wild cards. So, Mr. Cater, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the bench, like, I don't know. I kind of go back. I mean, I'll name the bench guys, but for one, I think a couple of these guys could have started, and there's that argument that goes back to Kyrie, right? Like with the whole DNP thing. But so I had Harden, obviously, like the argument could be there that he could be starting, obviously. Levine, Zach Levine, first time All-Star. He's been playing. If the Bulls were like 4 games better, I would definitely have him as a starter. I think that would be like it's just the fact that he's on the Bulls right now, but the way he's playing, and if he had been leading him to like a better record winning wise, I think he'd be a starter. Obviously Jaylen Brown and Tatum, the 2 Celtics, both those guys.
Boo. Boo.
So far I'm exactly the same.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
I'm 4 for 4 with you.
All right. Let's see if we can go 7 for 7 here. My next guy is another first timer, and our New York buddy would appreciate this one, but Julius Randle, I think he has to be in there. He's having a, breakout kind of year. So where are we at? Are we 5 for 5?
That was high five for me.
Okay.
I'm not there.
Adam?
I wasn't there with you with Randle.
No Randle?
No.
Okay. I mean, the Knicks are in the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
right?
no, it was tough. It was tough for sure. It was a tough omission.
Another guy, at the beginning of the year, I thought this guy was like breakout, could be a starter, depending on how the rest of the season went at the beginning of the year, but he should definitely be an All-Star reserve, is Sabonis. For the Pacers, right? He's having I think he's like 21, 11, and like almost 5 assists, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Pacers, they're obviously in the mix right up there with that jumble that's in the East. Man, this last spot was tough because there were a few guys I thought could be in here. I was leaning towards Malcolm Brogdon, who could get a mention. Another guy I thought like for sure at the beginning of the year would be Chris Middleton, but I didn't put him in there. And mostly this guy I put in there because he's probably he's if not the top defender, he's one of the top defenders in the NBA, is Ben Simmons.
Ooh.
15, 8, and 8. The Sixers are the number 1 seed in the East, so they got to have more than Embiid in there. He still can't shoot outside the paint, but he's playing like out of this world defense. He's 15, 8, and 8 with his normal near triple double numbers.
That was Bruce's defensive player of the year prediction. And it's looking.
Yep.
I mean, if it was given to a non-big man, it'd probably be Simmons for sure.
Yeah. So that's my bench. But like I said, it was tough with Brogdon and Middleton especially.
Wait, who was your last guy that you picked?
Simmons.
Oh, Simmons. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But those two, like, I wouldn't be mad if any of those 3, like if Brogdon or Middleton got in there, I wouldn't be upset about that. But I just gave Simmons the nod because Philly's, the top seed in the Eastern Conference, and Ben Simmons is up there for his defensive play too, which I feel like should be rewarded. Both of those things should be rewarded.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie,
do we match up?
I had the exact same 7.
Because you were nodding your head. You were nodding your head at Simmons. I was like, I didn't think anybody else would have him except maybe Bruce.
The other thing I was going to say about Simmons is we don't even know if Simmons is the best defender on his own team. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Matisse just won't obviously play enough. Matisse could make a all defensive team, maybe, they're going to start talking about it. The players are trying to push it. But yeah, I mean, when I was like, I was going to go with Brogdon, right? Because I like Brogdon better than Simmons just as a personal preference. But I'm like, man, the Sixers are the best record. I can't only have them with one player.
Right.
And I was like, well, I could go Tobias Harris, right, who scores more. But I mean, Simmons is kind of the engine. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the point guard, right? And he plays hella good D. So that's why I went with him over Tobias Harris and ultimately over Brogdon. I was like, I'm going to go with a second Sixer before I go with the second Pacer.
Right.
So yeah, I had the same thing.
See, I was leaning heavily towards Chris Middleton.
I
mean, Brogdon was up there too, but Middleton would have been like my next pick.
And Middleton's probably got a couple years in a row now, I think.
Yeah.
That he's made it, so he's kind of becoming like, and like he just put him in with ink that he's in there, but.
And like I was gonna like with Middleton too, like when I was thinking about it before I had really checked like where they were in the standings and like the numbers and all that, like because we had heard lately about how they'd lost 5 in a row, and I was like, oh, Milwaukee's kind of struggling, maybe like that kind of drops them a little bit. But then if you look, they're still third in the East.
Yeah.
At 17 and 13, right? And they've lost like I think 5 out of 6 or 5 in a row or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, Middleton might have a shot to get in there anyways, even with this. So, but yeah, like you were saying, I think Simmons probably gets that nod.
All right. Bruce, did you have anybody that differed from Sano?
Yes.
And Phillies?
Yeah, one player.
Daniel Tice.
Oh my God. One player. You're gonna laugh, but I actually did not have Ben Simmons. That's where we differ.
Fair.
I guess I was, probably swayed a little bit by looking at obviously the voting as far as like fan media and player ranking votes. But just after looking at the numbers, I actually went with Bam Adebayo. I think like that last wild card spot is there's a couple players juggled like in the format Adam was alluding to. I kind of those last spots I had Bam and Jaylen Brown coming in there and beating out guys like beating out a Ben Simmons, a Jimmy Butler, a Jeremy Grant. I really like Butler, but I kind of picked Bam over Butler for the reasons of games. He's played 10 more games.
Right.
Than Butler, and then my thought over Ben Simmons was Ben Simmons obviously has the argument defensively, so does Bam. They both can guard, versatile defenders, both can guard multiple positions. But Bam scores more, rebounds more. They're pretty comparable in steals and blocks, and obviously Simmons being a point forward averages more assists. I just thought Bam was a little bit better and more statistical, I guess more offensive statistical categories. But I mean, it's so close between the two, but I had everything else the same except just Bam.
So how heavily did you weigh the team record?
Yeah, I know that was the tough part was just that I didn't as much, I guess, because I think All-Star game, I think a lot more, I think things a little more heavy on numbers than like necessarily like all NBA. I think that has a little more sometimes weight with the team record. So not as much.
Okay. So there is an obvious notable omission that none of you fucks has even said this guy's name.
Oh, I know what it is.
One of our previous pods, you assholes were fucking arguing about this dude and his team for a long time. Trey Young? None of you guys thought of Trey Young?
He was on my list. I didn't want to say his name when I said the snubs of Butler, Jeremy Grant, and Ben Simmons. But you can see on my piece of paper, I have his name on the paper, but I didn't want to utter it out of my mouth.
Oh, because he's too good. Yeah, I mean, it's the trade was tough. I mean, he'll probably get in anyways, right? But if I would have put him in, I mean, I'd have put him in for Simmons.
Yeah, that last spot was. I mean, there were so many people you could debate in there. For me, like I gave Simmons the nod just because Phillies should have 2, right? Like just they're the number 1 seed, and the rest of those guys I didn't see an argument for taking him out. Like, you're not going to take out Sabonis, at least I don't think.
Right.
Or or a guy like Randall, whose team's in the playoffs right now, and he's the main reason why. So it was a tough omission, but Trey Young was definitely on the list.
Man, I had Trey Young over, so I'm like with you guys. I just didn't have Julius Randle, and then I disagree with Bruce. I didn't have Bam on mine. I took Sabonis over Bam, which is it was kind of like 50-50 to me, but ultimately I just rewarded a pacer. And then Trey, he's just all world offense, and they're so much better with him on the court, and they're so bad with him off. The on-off numbers are crazy, and so I had to reward him, and so that was my biggest thing. It was hard to leave Middleton off. I wanted to shout out Jeremy Grant. I think Bruce alluded to him. Incredible season. Their team is just so bad. We're struggling. They play hard, but they're struggling.
They have a lot of good talent on that team too. Like, they're just really young, I think, or not young, but like inexperienced, I guess.
He's having a career year, and Denver they're hurting without him, and Detroit. He's a nice building block for Detroit moving forward, but. Yeah, and then Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris is another one I thought of. But if there was 2 Sixers, I would give it to Simmons. Simmons, his overall game, it's not so much the scoring, it's just he does everything else. Jimmy Butler, just because the game is missed, but he, if he played like 5 more games for me, boom, he's in there. It's not even. Charlie said the other day he had before yesterday's game. He had 4 straight triple doubles or something like that, and they're better with him, even though Miami's struggling. So, it was kind of for the Eastern Conference's general consensus. The West, I know Charlie and me debated on a Friday evening, for about an hour. We were debating the West a little bit. So, why don't we start off? The starters were at guards. A little controversial. It was Curry for sure. It's not Dame. It's Luka, and obviously Dame. We'll get to him in a sec. And then Kawhi, LeBron, and Jokic. Obviously the main one is Dame over Luka. I probably, if I had a vote, I probably would have said Dame. Just because what he's doing with his team and the numbers. Even though Luka's putting up great numbers, his team is, they've underachieved so through the first third of the season. So that's the only gripe that I have with the starters. Charlie, let me hear your reserves.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with ones I feel like most people will probably have. Dame, Paul George, Zion, Rudy. Then I got Book, Donovan Mitchell, and Chris Paul. I think that was all 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I even thought about trying to put Ingram in there or something, but I was like, the Pelicans aren't very good, but he's got good numbers. And then there's always the Mike Conley factor, but I went with Chris Paul because of what he's done to turn around the Suns,
Right.
And I guess I didn't even know if I broke it down right by position, but because then I guess maybe 8, you could say someone like, no, 8, there's no way 8 makes it anyways. But yeah, so I don't know how close that is to everybody else's.
Well, Sano, look like you had something to say. Go ahead, Sano.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I changed my list a few times again, but most of those were the same. I think we might have ended up with the same, but I actually had Ingram in there.
Ooh.
But because I did the same thing. So I looked at it and I was like, you got to have, if you're going to put 2 of from one team in there on the bench, it's got to be from Phoenix rather than New Orleans, right? Like Phoenix is, I think, what are they, 3rd, 4th in the West right now?
Yeah.
And a big reason for that is Chris Paul. He was the one I was going back and forth on. But yeah, I had the same. Another one I was debating taking out was Booker, just because of he got off to kind of a slow start.
Right.
Missed a couple games, and not too many, but he missed a couple. But lately he's
Right.
looked like normal old Booker.
He didn't start off as bubble Booker. When he was in the bubble, he was killing. I think it was that adjustment period to playing with Chris Paul, who's Booker, Ricky Rubio played with him last year, and Ricky Rubio's boom, boom, boom. Let's get the ball out. I don't want to handle, like, I want to, pass, kind of like Lonzo in a sense, like get the ball out. And so Chris Paul is real ball dominant. I mean, he's great, but he's real ball dominant. So I think it was a little bit of an adjustment period for Booker.
Right. And I also obviously had Lillard. I mean, Dame, like you were saying, like there's an argument there that he should be starting.
Oh, for sure.
I think.
For sure.
Paul George, I had Zion as well, Mitchell, and Rudy. So I think we were pretty much the same. Booker was another one. I figured we had to have two Suns in there over the other choices. Like there were guys who missed a lot of time, like like Cat, Karl Anthony Towns. He was out for too long. Obviously, we talked about Ingram. And we're obviously taking out AD because we're figuring he's not playing, right? So
he's probably gonna get named an All-Star, but then he'll get named an All-Star reserve. But yeah, so we're just picking essentially his replacement.
Right.
Right. And
then McCollum, like CJ McCollum, all these guys deserve, like if they had been playing at this level and not miss time, like they'd obviously be on this list.
Right.
But yeah, so that was my 7. So I think it was just those two. Like, do you go with 2 Pelicans or 2 Suns? Right. And I went with the 2 Suns instead, and then had Zion in there from the Pelicans.
So you had Zion, Mitchell, Gobert, PG, Chris Paul, Dame, and Booker.
Yep.
Got it. All right, Mr. Jackson, talk to me.
Yeah, no, everything was the same. The difference was it just I had Ingram instead of Zion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, just
fill me in.
Yeah, it can go.
Ingram. I think Ingram is just the piece that makes everything else move. I think he just frees up Zion a lot. And then BI made the All-Star game last year, and he's essentially literally almost to the T is averaging the exact same things he did last year.
I saw that.
But I mean, literally the difference is he's got like 1 less rebound, but he's averaging 1 more assist, but he's actually more effective. His turnovers are down, and his fouls per game are actually down from last year, while still shooting very high percentage from 2, from 3. I mean, everything else is literally the exact same,
right?
While decreasing, those deficiencies with fouls and turnovers. So I was just like, hey man, like when it was close between them on the bottom, I just prefer I just prefer Ingram over Zion. That's it. So
real quick, I should have asked you guys this before you we started naming reserves. What is there a certain, like, we do this every year, is there a certain criteria that you guys like to go by? Do you guys factor, or what factors all play a role in how you pick your guys? Is it is it more stat based? Does team success play a role, or who fans would want to see in an actual All-Star game, or who's actually a better player? If guys are like tied, you guys give it to like who's an actual better player, or what is something, or what factors into all that for you guys?
I usually will go with the raw stats first, and then if it was like really close, the tiebreaker would be like team success.
Okay.
And it could also be like, okay, well, this guy might be having a better year than this guy, but that team already has 2 guys, or something like that too, right?
Right. Okay.
I kind of do the same. Like if it's close, like like the example we use with New Orleans and Phoenix, right? Like if it's close between 2 guys that might earn it, like I tend to lean towards the team that's higher in the standings, or that's playing better. Yeah, but I mean, like as far as stats, like you could look at a guy like Chris Paul, who's I think like 18 and 9, right? 18 and 9 assists, and then you look at a guy like Ingram, who I think is like 24-5-5 or something like that, close. So looking at those stats, you could easily lean towards Ingram, but the effect Chris Paul has had on the Suns and where they are in the standings kind of swayed me that way.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I think All-Star. I think I look at obviously the stats first. I probably weigh that more. I probably don't weigh actually team success as much. I'm willing to go a little bit deeper. I'll probably look at the top 10 teams. Kind of see obviously per.
Right.
Whether they're over 500 or not. Obviously in the West you get a little bit deeper. The East you got to obviously take consideration of those teams with losing records. But I probably don't weigh that as heavily as I do raw stats. And then I always take into account, have you broken the plane before? Because I think tends to be a lean towards that. So for like I was saying, like BI's was an all-star before, Zion wasn't. And I think there tends to be more favoritism to someone who's broken there. Like, when you look back in the East, like Jeremy Grant has the numbers, but there's going to be probably more of a lean for someone who's been an all-star before. Just like you guys are really weighing in. It's like, shit, Chris Middleton's been an all-star like a couple years now in a row. Like, he probably should be back in there again. It's tough to like knock someone out and put someone in unless they have like a tremendous leap. And so I kind of think of that, like, where have they been in the past recently?
You think of he holds equity already. The player
holds
more equity in that regard. Yeah,
So,
that's actually okay. Go ahead, Sano.
I was just going to say, like, I mean, I get what Bruce is saying. Like, I try not to do that though on purpose. Like, like a guy that came up that I was thinking about. I think Adam, you mentioned him first, was Mike Conley, right? Like, he's never been an all-star, but I'm not going to hold that against him just to say, like, just because somebody's like that's been an all-star in the past, and it might be on even playing field with Conley. But in that case, I might give the bump to Conley because, first of all, he's playing with the top seed. I think they have the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, they do.
And if anything, if anybody's going to get 3 players, it should be the top team in the NBA, which would be Utah. So, I mean, I think it goes both ways for me.
Right. Okay. How I did it was it's similar to all you guys, raw stats, and then I kind of hold team success a little bit more. And then someone like, I kind of think of first timers and how are their stats in comparison to somebody else's who's on the fringe. So I kind of weigh those together, and so that's how I pick my guys. So I basically am in the same, Dame, CP, the legend Paul George, Gobert. I told you this the other day, Sam. I was like 50-50 on Donovan Mitchell, but I ended up putting him in. Utah deserves 2. I put Zion in. Then it came to my last wild card because I think, obviously AD is a given. So for all of us, so my last one came down to DeRozan, who's been leading a young San Antonio Spurs team with most improved player candidate DeJounte Murray. Shout out to baby boy. And that guy's up for all defense too. He's been playing well. But then it came down between DeMar DeRozan, who's 20 and 6.5 assists, career high, versus Mike Conley. And Mike Conley leads the NBA in plus minus. He's been quarterbacking the number. I think they're a top 5 offense, and he's a top 5. They're a top 5 defense also. So, but I just had to reward DeRozan. I wanted to put Conley in there real bad.
So wait, you don't have Booker on there, right?
I did not.
That's the omission.
Yeah, that was my omission. It was tough because that one came down to Mitchell or Booker. But I just didn't want to have one Utah guy on there. And I feel like CP's the reason they've taken the hump, or they've taken that jump.
Yep.
So, but like I said, I could see Booker. Yeah, Booker could easily. He's been tearing it up as of late. So he's made a nice little run to get in. So I could definitely see him getting in. So, So, but notable admissions, you know, we didn't bring up Shea. Shea's been killing,
Mhm.
and OKC's been overachieving. So Shea's been killing. De'Aaron Fox, he's been putting up good numbers. He kind of fell off a little bit in the last week or so, but you know he was killing. You know, we mentioned Ingram, Ja Morant. Got to show him
I
love.
was gonna say in the
I was
East,
thinking about him.
we didn't. You know, he's not gonna get in, but he's balling as Vucevic.
Oh yeah, that's another one. That's a good call, Vooch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, his team sucks, but I really don't think that's like, it's kind of like Zach Levine. They're putting some trash out there with Zach, and he's still holding it down. And they're putting some, and then well, injuries, you know, Gordon's hurt and Fournier was hurt. And, you know, that's a pretty bad starting five sometimes the Magic throw out there,
Right.
which isn't necessarily Vuce's fault. But yeah, he's balling.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hayward too. And
Oh, yeah, Gordy.
And the Hornets are exciting, man. I like the Hornets. They're exciting to watch. They just beat San Jose Warriors on a buzzer beater last night.
Thanks to Draymond. Thank you, Draymond.
Yeah.
That technical.
That shit was
Technicals.
That shit was crazy.
All over local news here in the Bay. All over last night.
So yeah, man, it's gonna be exciting. I'm interested to see how the coaches do it, how our picks match up with what the coaches pick. You know, because the coaches got to turn in their ballots by tomorrow. So like today is like players' last auditions. Like there's an article. I think Shams put out a tweet talking about, man, Zach Levine. You know, his last showcase. You know, he had 38 against was it the Kings? He had 38 against the Kings last night. So yeah, man, we're hoping, you know, Seattle's own, Washington's own Zach Levine gets in. But yeah, we'll find out shortly. But you know, that's gonna wrap it up for today, you guys, man. Continue to do what you do. You guys we love and appreciate the support. You know, follow us on all our social media accounts. And man, tune in Tuesday for the selection show. So
I mean, March 3rd, All-Star game, right? Or is it March 3rd or March 7th?
I think it's
7th.
Or this
7th.
7th? Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy they're having a game. But all right, Sano, Bruce, Charlie, Adam, Blacktop Smack Talk, signing off. Take care. God bless. Thank you guys.
Now,